Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. This is still Rapid Dawn right here on Rapid Television. Right now it is time for the big conversation. My name is Victor. Okay.
My name is Martha Alu. Welcome to the 9 o'clock conversation right here on Rapid Dawn.
And of course, today we turn our attention to activism. And of course, over the years, Nigeria has witnessed waves of activism from labor movements and student unions to more recent digital movements like the End SARS and End Bad Governance protests. Now, these movements have sparked national conversations, pressured institutions, and of course, in some cases, influenced policy responses. But they have also raised another question. How much real, lasting change has followed the protest and public outcry? Recent public debates continue to reflect this tension and why some citizens believe that activism has helped expose corruption, improve accountability, and amplify youth voices. Others argue that systematic change has remained slow with gaps between protest demands and policy outcomes. And so to help us unpack this, we have two voices with strong experience on this subject. First, we are joined by Comrade Alfred O. Somfon, a human rights activist and Senate candidate for Lagos West Senatorial District under the AAC for Africa. Good morning to you, Somfon. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tomfon.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
That's such a spectacular name. I mean,
Really it is.
Nothing like we've heard. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right. We're also joined by Hassan Taiwo Soweto, a member of the organizing committee of the End Bad Governance movement in Lagos State. Hassan Soweto, good morning and welcome. All right, I think he's going to be joining us in the course of the program. Well, basically. But of course, we have some fun here in the studio with us. Once again, good morning to you and welcome to Rapid Dawn.
All right, good morning. Thank you. And I want to appreciate the entire masses and the viewers as a whole. It's time to have some fun in this country and end bad governance once and for all.
All right. I've always wondered, what activism actually means. And from someone who has been active in the space, right, give us that direct definition from an activist. What does it actually mean?
All right, thank you very much. You see, when we talk about activism, activism begins from when people, 2, 3, 4, depending, people of different tribes, religious groups, organizations come together to speak against a particular thing, whether bad governance, cultural values, religious, or what have you. Activism has over time been the only reason why Nigeria got independence, why we got to the states in which we are. Quite a number of people in Nigeria and as a whole have sacrificed their lives. Activism, like I always say, is no different from haluta. Activism is not a child's play, and it is not for the weak or the people who are easily compromised or could be compromised in order to ensure the purpose to which a union or a movement has been formed is not achieved. Activism goes far beyond words. And if you look at if we want to take account from the colonial era down to the time in which we had democracy, even though today in Nigeria we no longer have democracy, as of today it has become demonstration of craziness. That's what we have today in Nigeria, demonstration of craziness. Because
from who now?
From the from the previous administration to the current administration, it has been demonstration of craziness. Because if it has not been a demonstration of craziness, now we will not be at the point where the little children, the minor, their lives will be at stake. Now, the height of any insecurity in any country or in any society we want to talk about today would be when a child, a minor or baby is no longer safe. It has become so worrisome in Nigeria today that even the single, someone was telling me of recent, he said, I don't think I want to get married. He said, because my unborn child is already crying. Don't give back to me here in Nigeria, because being in Nigeria alone is sentenced to life imprisonment. It's sentenced to death automatically. If it is not sentenced to death, let's look at it. A 6-month-old baby, if not for activism, how will all these things be shut out? How would the society as a whole get to understand this? Activism is not limited to we organizing ourselves. It involves media as well.
All right, we'll get deeper in the conversation as we proceed.
Thank you so much. Some fun. I think we have Soweto on the line joining us this morning. Hi, Soweto. Good morning to you. Can you unmute your microphone, Soweto, so that we can hear you in the studio?
I can hear you.
All right. Yes, we can hear you. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on the show. Now, Soweto, I know about your involvement in the End SARS protest and the number of other protests that you've been a part of. But I want to start with a very honest question this morning. Nigeria has a rich and painful tradition of activism. I'm talking Funmilayo Ransome Kuti, Gani Fayemi, Ken Saro-Wiwa, Fela Kuti, who was arrested over 200 times, you know. And these people paid with their freedom. They paid with their exile. Now, looking at what we call activism in Nigeria today, street protests, hashtags, and what have you, do you think that we're living up to that antecedent that was set by these people that I have mentioned here today, activism in Nigeria?
Definitely we are. And I think in many ways we're also surpassing the previous generation. Don't forget that this generation has immense resources, technologies that previous generation could only dream of.
Okay.
You know, I just posted this morning a report about the protest in 2009 where we were arrested. Today actually is the 50th anniversary of the Soweto massacre in South Africa. And I remember that in 2009 we had a protest here, a national student protest against the education underfunding to mark the anniversary. And I encountered a report on our website which reminded me of all we went through to organize that protest. That was an era when you had social media playing the kind of role it's playing now. And I remember that we had to transverse the entire state of the southwest, southeast, and some part of the north, pasting posters, circulating leaflets, the street on campuses. And it took months of effort. It took a lot of the resources of going from traveling from motor park to motor park or state to state. And I just realized that in this day and time, it will take far less to be able to get the message of that struggle, to students today. Because given technology and all of that, things are even much more easy. So in that sense, you have had an explosion of activity beyond what it used to be the case in the past. You now have people, young people at a very young age, taking up the courses, organizing, and actually also showing up on the streets, when it mattered. So in that sense, I think that we are living up to expectation. What I think is missing in this current situation is the ideological conceptualization of our struggle, of what we are fighting against and what the solution should be. That is what is missing in this generation. I think that that's something that we need to sort out for our struggle in this generation to actually achieve the ultimate goal.
So
right.
We made mention of ideological conception or something of that sort. Can you expand on that?
Yes, because when you go back to history, I entered the university in the year 2001, and then from there I became an activist, a student activist. As at 2001, the student movement was already in a state of decline. But even as at that point, the standard of activism was still higher than what you have today. So that at that point, for you to be an activist, you needed to stand for a particular philosophy or idea of life, of how society should be organized. In the 80s and the early 90s, within the student movement, you cannot find an activist who will not say, this is my ideology. It's either you're a Pan-Africanist, you're a Marxist, you're a socialist, you're a Nkrumahist. People had definite ideologies that guided what they did, how they intervened in struggle, and what causes and objectives they actually fought for. But today now, when you meet activists, whether in the student movement, whether even in trade unions or in the communities, or just young people organizing on social media, and you ask them, what's your world vision? They can't tell you. They just believe that certain things are wrong, there's injustice, we need to fight, but they are not able to provide the scientific underpinning of all of it. And without that scientific underpinning, I think that it reduces the the impact of activism, and it even reduces the ability of the activists to be able to drive the kind of change that we're actually fighting for. Because when you have the ideology, it does not just tell you what we are fighting against, it also gives you an idea of what we are fighting for. For me as a Muslim, I know that I'm not just fighting against increment of fuel price. I'm not just fighting against dictatorship. I'm actually fighting for a society, a new kind of society, where none of these injustice will take place. And I know how to build that kind of society. I know what it entails to build that kind of society. So in that sense, I'm not just reacting, to injustice. Given the time and opportunity, I'm also prepared to do the kind of work that is necessary.
All right, sorry.
And throw a new kind of, and that I think is what it is in the current situation.
Yeah. Thank you. Now let's go back to you, Alfred, here in the studio, because he did mention ideologies when it comes to activism as it is. Yeah. Of course, he said himself that he himself knows what he's fighting for, but he's one amongst many. And over time, we've seen various activists on the road, on the street, protesting for various situations as it is. Is it safe to say that many of the persons who actually follow the activists or who are even protesting on the road as activists do not even know and understand what they are protesting for or what they are being activists, why they are activists in the first place?
All right, I think, see, in my opinion, everyone you see on the road, before you see them on the road, they all have an essence, a purpose, an ideology before they can set out to be on that street. Because,
everybody?
Yeah, I'll tell you for free, everybody. You know why? Because being on that street is signing up your life. Anything can happen. While in the course of protesting, demanding justice or demanding your rights or a better governance in Nigeria, you should have at the back of your mind. And there is no one on the street, even a day-old baby on the street knows, as I'm stepping out today to clamor for a better change in Nigeria as an activist, automatically anything is bound to happen. Now, the only part we should be looking at, as far as I am concerned, because okay, why do you leave your house? That's the first question as an activist. You want to go and protest. Why are you leaving your house? Is either you're going out to protest because there is hike in price, inflation, insecurity, or what have you, or a change of government. Now, at the end of the day, a lot of people sum together to say, okay, of all these things we are talking about, what we want is a change of government. Now, let's take account from the current, the recent protest that happened of recent. We had about 4 or 5 days protest of recent. Now, everyone has one singular clamor, which is what? End bad governance, which is Tinubu must go. That was a song, a general song, and the general opinion of everyone. Now, it is invariably our imperative to this that everyone knows that, okay, why do we want him to go? It is because they know that the judicial system and the country as a whole is terrible. And the only way and a better way by which they can have a better change is to change the administration on seat. It's just like you saying, we agreed that being born in Nigeria is sentenced to death or life in prison. Now we now know that, Buhari, who apparently was the previous administration, had killed the entire Nigerian, but the current administration of this Tinubu APC has decided to bury every single Nigerian. Because if not, everyone who's left their house to come outside to protest, are you telling me that they are daft to know that the cost of gas for 1 kg today in Nigeria is not 2,000? In some places, it's even 2,500 as of today. Now you now say activism people don't have an ideology of what is happening. See, let's call a spade a spade. The only part we should be looking at is why does activism, demanding for justice, demanding for better governance, oftentimes result into riots? That is the part I feel we should be looking at. Because there is no one who goes out who doesn't know why they are outside. But why does it result into riots? But is another factor to consider.
If you look at it, don't you think some persons are being reactionary? Because you did mention something that everyone who comes on board, who came on board to protest very recently, came from one particular ideology, which of course is to oust this current administration. Don't you think there are some persons that are also there, are also following the crowd, and whatever the crowd chants, they chant?
No, I don't think some people just follow the crowd. Whatever the crowd chants, they chant. No, there are two factions of activism now. Okay. One is a global general activism, which concerns the masses, what affect the country as a whole. One is orchestrated, organized activism by the opposition or the government. Let's use it that way. That's why, okay, let's take account of two. Let's use two people here as a case study here. Let's use the likes of the VDM, who is an activist, and the likes of Omoyele Sowore, who is also an activist. Both of them are activists. Am I correct? Now, both of them are foot soldiers, whom of which they take out to the streets at the end of the day to protest for what? The same change of governance. But here are the questions. Why do we have these differences that whenever Omoyele Sowore goes out for his own activism with his team or with his own people, at the end of the day, what he end up getting is being tear gas, even when he does not cross the barricades. He gets tear gas, he gets fired. All of us, we can all see that on the social media. But here is VDM on the other side, who also goes right in between the military, not just the Nigerian police this time around. But at the end of the day, nothing happens.
Mr. Somfon, that's the point where we should even ask you a question.
Exactly.
Because if you have claimed now that everyone that goes out on the street actually knows what they are protesting for, I'd even like to counter that first of all, because there was a time when there was a protest for end bad governance in Nigeria, where we had people in Kano State carrying Russian flags. You know, these people literally didn't know what the protest was meant for. In fact, when the subsidy, I think it was a Hausa kind of thing, I would look for Adawa the Talafi. That was the protest that happened in Kano State. You know, it was about telling the president to bring back the subsidy. Most of the people there, and I say most because I went on the street to have a conversation with people, they didn't even know what fuel subsidy was. They didn't even know, but they were on the streets protesting. And so if we have a Sowore clan or a Sowore supporter and we have a VDM supporter, if you claim that you are all moving in activism for the same thing, why do you still not align? Because it's looking like each man pursuing his own personal interest, pursuing his personal popularity. But if you are an activist, we move for the same cause.
Exactly.
If it is ending bad governance, we will align at that point.
Thank you.
Why do we see that disalignment between these two parties that you have mentioned?
You see, whenever you see disalignment within two parties that regard themselves as an activist, let's tell ourselves the truth. There is one ideology in activism that can never change. It has remained in the last over 200 years until today. It is still the same. And what is that? See, a true activist has one goal, which is a better change for the cause to which he fights. Then, the other parts, we call them a counter-terrorist activist. Yes. They work directly with the government. See, whether you are Omoyele Sowore, you are VDM, you are Ganifa Wemi, you are whatever, as long as you are an activist, it is supposed to be one goal, one movement, and one fight, one cause. We all die there, no retreat, no surrender. But where you see these differences between two people, it is not for fame. Let's tell ourselves the truth, and let's be realistic here.
What is it for?
It is a systematic approach in the political system to create a diversion. You know, the administration is a master plan to divert the real cause of attention into thuggery. Now, let's check this out. If you go out with hundreds of soldiers as an activist to protest for a cause, why on earth should you leave them while the protest is still going on? Take account. Why VDM was on a protest ground. I'm going to talk about VDM and Omoyele Sowore. Let's not be biased here, because both of them are activists. The differences between the both of them is the interests to which they serve are different. Sowore serves the interests of the masses. VDM serves a selfish personal greed on his own.
All right.
Okay.
Let's not make the conversation about both of them. But we have, I think Soweto is on the line, and he wants to chip into that a bit as well. Hello, Soweto. Yeah, let's hear you.
Go ahead, please.
Well, I don't really know what I meant to respond to, but let me just take it in this way.
Okay.
First is that I think that the struggle we are waging is far too serious, and a lot of prices have been paid by several generations in blood and sweat, than for it to be turned into a debate about who is more of an activist than the other. I always try to avoid that kind of conversation, and I will not even encourage any of the people that call themselves my colleagues in the activist movement to partake in such a conversation. Why is because I do not regard activism as a popularity thing. It's more or less an inconvenience to their background. And I've been doing this since I entered university in 2001. I've been doing this since 2002. I had my first suspension from the university in 2004. I spent 10 years in the university. I went to prison at the age of 43. I'm under trial again now. Who knows whether I'm still going back to it. I could have died several times over the course of the past 2 decades. So I've seen people die. I've lost people in sport, marching on that. So for me, therefore, I don't think that such a serious business should be taken in that way. However, I think it's correct for us to, however, to criticize any group that is involved in struggle if we think that their methods are incorrect or their methods can endanger people. But we have to do it in a way that is defined, knowing that anybody who is involved in struggle is actually an ally. And the way we decide allies is different from the way we decide our platform. That is how much I would like to say on this matter.
All right.
Because again, I don't think that is the most important. But I would like to make a comment again on the question of ideology and activism and all of that. I think we should not make a mistake to think that every protester on the street is an activist. An activist, when you are talking about activists, we do not mean every protester. We mean the advanced guard of the masses. That is, those who organize struggle, who organize protest. Those are the activists. Everybody who joins protest, they may not even know the full gist of what is happening or what they are fighting against. That is possible. That is not a bad thing, because struggle itself is a festival of the oppressed, and it attracts several layers, several categories of people for different. But when I talk about the lack of ideology or the reduction of ideology in today's generation, I say it from the point of view of the organizers, that is the advanced guys, the new generation who are now putting themselves forward to try and organize for struggle, to try and put themselves out there to provide leadership for struggle. And what I see there is that it's not as if they're not having the kind of coherent ideology that the past generation had. It's not as if it makes them less courageous. No. We have actually seen more courage in struggle in the past few years than we have seen in a long time. Hence, it's a clear indication of how courageous Nigerian youths are, ready to, put down their life.
All right.
But the point I'm saying is that at one point, the question of the revolution would have to come in. The question of how do we even build a new Nigeria? And that is where the question of ideology will therefore become very important.
Okay.
How many comrades who are active in struggle and knows the alternatives to some of the prevalent liberal economic policies of Nigeria? If you don't want privatization, what should be the alternative? Those are the kind of questions we have to answer when we begin to build a new Nigeria. And our ideology understanding is very much important.
All right, still talking about some of the questions that we need to answer. Let's take it back to the End Bad Governance protest, that also happened in Lagos State sometime last year. And the End Bad Governance protests were built around economic hardship, inflation, hunger, and declining living standards of Nigeria. Of course, every Nigerian, to an extent, or most of the Nigerians who came out for that protest agrees to that particular, that these are the problems. But here's the question. What specific institutional reforms does the movement believe the protest would serve? Beyond just coming out to protest. Yes, go ahead.
Is to actually defeat and roll back the neoliberal onslaught of the Tinubu regime. Unfortunately, we have not succeeded at that yet. Because if you recall, starting from May 29, 2023, the Tinubu government started on a mission to drive down the living standards of Nigerians through a series of policies, including removal of fuel subsidy, increase in electricity tariff, the position on new taxes, as well as a cutback in funding for basic social services. The new student loan that was introduced for students was an attempt, to begin to convert the function of the government, the responsibility of government towards education, towards funding education into something now that is turned into a credit scheme, for students, which you have to pay back. These are all of the steps that we are taking, and the End Bad Governance struggle that erupted in 2024 and that continues since then was an attempt to roll that back, to get the government to come to a point that we cannot continue to drive down the living standards of the people because you say you want to reform the economy. To reform the economy has to mean that you redistribute wealth. To reform the economy has to mean that you fund social services, you create jobs, and you halt the inequality that is taking place across the country today. We have not succeeded at that because after 2024, the movement fractured a bit, and we have had all kinds of development also undermining the ability of the Nigerian people to continue to enter into the street. The most important of those factors, obviously, was the refusal of the Nigerian labor movement, that is the leadership of the NSA and TUC, to actually provide a leadership for the struggle. They have refused in 2024. The labor movement have not confronted this government on anything except just fighting for minimum wage, something which doesn't resolve the problem for even their members. So that has been the experience we have had. But the struggle has to continue because if you look at the rapid insecurity today and the protest that we had last week on June 12th against the insecurity and for the children and teachers and activities to be released, you realize that there's an interlinkage between that protest against insecurity and the struggle against the bad governance. Because at the end of the day, when you look at all of the tons of research on insecurity in Nigeria, you begin to see that there's a link between the decline in economic opportunity, the social decay that is taking place across the north and in other parts of the country, to the rampant insecurity that is taking place. So what that means, therefore, is that if you don't win the battle against the bad governance, then there is no way the insecurity crisis can actually be resolved.
All right, Soweto.
All right. Thank you so much, Soweto, for that. Let's go to some fun now here in the studio with us. Now, Bring Back Our Girls, hashtag Bring Back Our Girls went global. Michelle Obama held the sign. World leaders were a part of that. And this is 12 years after that. We still have about 100 or over 100 of these Chibok girls still held in captivity. Not only that, we have an extra total of 2,416 students that are being captured from schools. So my question is, what did that global hashtag do? And beyond, to what extent does the limit of activism go? Because if it is functional, I mean, why do we still have these cases down? To what level does activism go?
See, it's rather unfortunate. I don't know how to speak on the tongue. Let's be honest and be realistic. See, I would say they even try to manage to reduce the extent at which the level of kidnap, adoptions, and the likes are currently ongoing. But because activism is on, people are protesting, protesters are on the street, a whole lot is happening, and they know revolution might likely take place, just like what happened during the SARS protest and the likes. See, the hashtags are working. The community leaders are not sleeping. Everyone is sacrificing the best they can. But you see, it is more like this is a syndicate. To break the barricades and get in to these people are not that easy. And the reality again is, if we must return them, it is not a difficult thing. If we must end insecurity in Nigeria, it will cost Nigeria maybe a few days to clear all of this. But it cannot be cleared because these are avenues to perpetrate and achieve all their evil intentions in ensuring that Nigeria, even in a democracy era like this, is still backward. It's still in a colonial time. And the best way to subdue the masses, I will tell you for free, the essence of all these things is to subdue the masses is by this abduction, kidnap people here and there, innocent children, innocent family, and at the same time for them to siphon as much as possible they can. If not, let's tell ourselves the truth. Why would the rich continue to be richer and the poor continue to be poorer? If all these hashtags, if not for the help of all these hashtags, I tell you today on the street, you will walk on every street and see dead bodies, people lying down dead on every street, and nothing is going to happen about it. And we have a government, we have a system that believes it's running. It's not that the hashtags are not working, but I feel the only way, once and for all, is clear off this bad system. And in doing that, you and I know what it's going to take.
But the system you clear off does not clear off these bandits, because we're talking about two separate entities here. We're talking about the government, we're talking about the terrorists, the jihadists, the bandits, all of which are in the
Who
forest.
are the terrorists you are talking about? Who are the bandits you want to mention? Let's tell ourselves the truth. Do you think the terrorists? Do you think the terrorists and the bandits we mention are the ones in the bush?
Comrade,
no, let's stop that. The terrorists and the bandits are the ones in the government.
Okay, so let me ask you now. Why is Shey Makinde? Why do you still see him running? Is he the one who kidnapped the students?
His sins are forgiven.
Listen, because it is important for us to make very clear, you're making very bold claims, right? And some of these assertions that you're making needs to have a backing to them. Yes, if it's okay to not be satisfied with a government, right, and demanding accountability from that government. But I'm asking, to what extent does this go? Because it's looking like on Monday we come out in activism to protest. On Tuesday, we do the same thing. But it's 1 month. I hope you know today marks 1 month. These people are still in the forest.
Exactly.
To what extent does this go? How do you make sure that what you do goes beyond protesting on the streets to actually yielding positive results?
We've actually written to international communities. We've actually done quite a number of work that I may not be permitted to say some of these things here because of this government. Because the last time I was on one interview and I said we're going to go into a 36-state stand-down protest, and shortly 1 week after the live session like this, we had June 12, 36 state protests across the globe. But I can assure you, and I'm also assuring the entire Nigerians, that if this insecurity does not come to an end, as a matter of fact, as a matter of urgency, very crucial and very, very important as we speak, it is non-negotiable. It is not asking for opinion. Because the question is this: if the content curator, if a content curator can sit in his house and say something about the government, and the next minute you have the DSS, the Nigerian police at their doorstep, even the soldiers, you can see how they adopted Justice Clark too. If you can say something at the comfort of your home and they track you to get you, please, and you also still have this bandit, this terrorist live on the screen, go on TikTok. It's everywhere on TikTok, sharing money and the likes, even showing where they are. And hold on, and someone would not tell me they cannot get there. Let me tell you, this is my assurance.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm telling Nigerians. For you to know this hashtag works and a whole lot of this thing works, this administration only has one choice.
Which is?
To resign willingly. Return the innocent families and children. What this administration don't know is this. If those people 1 month today don't return safe and sound, I will not be responsible for the cowardness of the administration.
All right, we'll pick up from here just in a moment anyways. But let's quickly get to Soweto so we can let Soweto go. But Soweto, just very quickly, we see that democracies are designed, to resolve conflict through elections, basically. Now, in this part of the world, protests continue to rise. So if protests increasingly become the primary mechanism through which citizens seek change, does that indicate a failure of democracy itself?
Yes, definitely. It implies that. And it's not just for Nigeria, it's across Africa, most importantly, West Africa. And it's not democracy as such that has failed. It is this type of democracy, what we call bourgeois democracy. Because people make the mistake to think that what was won in 1999 was the democracy that Nigerians trooped out to demand for in June 12 and in the protests afterwards. No. Because if you recall all of the entire protests around June 12 up to the late 90s, the desires of the people, what they expected of democracy was very clear. They didn't just see democracy as an annual ritual of, a 4-year ritual of elections. That was not just what they saw about democracy. Nigerians demanded democracy from the point of view of economic equality, from the point of view of the government that is able to protect the lives and properties of the citizens, from the point of view of the government that uses the wealth of the nation to provide a better life for all, provide employment. So in that sense, democracy was not just seen as an electoral ritual, and a ritual of elections of political parties and co. It was also seen from the point of view of economic dividends. And what you have seen in the past 27 years is that nothing has been done, nothing has been achieved from the point of view of economic dividends. And even in terms of democratic right, nothing also has been achieved. In fact, Nigeria is less free today than was even the case under the military. I mean, you could say that under the military, a lot of activists were being killed, people were on exile and all of that. But also, in this current situation that we find ourselves in this country, there are many activist journalists, who are also on exile now. There are those who are even missing. Daddy Yatta is missing. Been missing for a year. And it's obvious that they didn't just go missing by itself. Because, a byproduct of government machinations and all of that. So in that sense, in many ways, what we have today is it's more or less a civilian dictatorial government.
Okay.
The dictatorial government is civilian guard. So you are quite right when you say that what it implies is that democracy has failed.
All right,
like I said, just democracy alone, bourgeois democracy. And I think that what we have to say is that we need a democracy of the Nigerian people, a working class democracy. That is what can actually save this country.
All right, Soweto, thank you so much for your time with us on the program this morning, but we have to let you go right now. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Soweto. Maybe sometime when you are in Abuja, you can come down to the studio so that we can continue this conversation.
All right.
All right, enjoy the rest of your day.
Enjoy your day. All right, back to you, Comrade Alfred. You gave a stern warning to the government, and you said they have two choices: resign.
They either resign or return all the children back. And in addition to it, they should not bother to run for 2027. Because if he decides to run for 2027, we all know the only thing everybody know in Nigeria now they are going to do is to rig. And the masses are ready. INEC should just, it is a warning to INEC, INEC should just be careful in rigging any nonsense this time around. Because if that happens, I'm sure this revolution will start from the INEC office.
All right, Soweto. Not Soweto.
Sorry,
some fun. All right, some fun. And I'd like to think that activism cuts across tribe, religion, and geographical space. I believe that activism should cut across these areas.
Sure.
Now, for over a decade, children were being kidnapped from schools in Borno, in Yobe State, in Katsina, in Kebbi, Niger, all of those northern states. And the South largely watched. But now something has happened in the West, in Oyo, and suddenly the noise is deafening from activists. Now, are you saying that why does this geography really matter? Because I believe that you would not say that's false, because it's obvious on the news. We see the kind of activism that goes on for the people in Oyo State. Does geography have any part to play when it comes to your activism?
Honestly, geography has no part to play here, because everyone, every citizen, every Nigerian family, children, as long as you're a citizen, has the right to safety, has the right to be free. Whether you're a northerner, you're a easterner, you're a westerner, whatever, as long as you're a Nigerian, you're a citizen, you have the right to be free. Nobody should be kidnapped. Nobody should be adopted. Now, this idea that the noise became much because it came down to Oyo, Gbomosho, and the like, is because, see, we are still battling to resolve the ones in the northern part of the country. Now, these people decided to spread their tentacles to other parts of the geographical states. No. No. The moment you cross that line, automatically you have left Nigeria no choice. This time,
you have to cross that line.
See, we are trying to manage to avoid revolution. Revolution is not my mate. Not even them in power that are playing this game. Revolution is nobody's age mate. Not even our 4, 10, 100 years forefathers. Do you know what it means for people to say we are ready to die, even at a gunpoint? How many people would your bullet eat before they all get cleared off?
My question is, why did we have to wait till it got to
We
this
didn't
point?
wait.
We did wait because I'll tell you something, some fun. The people in Borno were kidnapped almost at the same time that the people in Oyo State were kidnapped. Please, direct me to any part of the news you would see people consistently talk about Borno, even though Oyo consistently appeared on the news.
See, there's something you need to understand about activism.
Please.
When situations are like this, I'm an investigating journalist.
Okay.
So Red does his investigation, VDM does his investigation. Quite a whole number of activists you see put their heads together to tackle the issue of the Borno, to see, is it what we are actually trying to get into that is really happening, or something else? Now, we were in the middle of that. Borno, there was never a silence on Borno's case. As a matter of fact, we were on top of Borno's matter, the kidnapped and the adoption there, before this suddenly emanated from nowhere. Then the question has to now be, we need to now decide to, let's investigate all our governors from every state. At some point, we were looking at one particular channel. But now, this is no longer a joke. Have you of recent saw the release of the Adelabu's family that were kidnapped? They were also adopted.
Yeah.
Have you seen any adoption where you see cameras everywhere trying to say, yeah, jump down from the roof, this one, that one? Have you ever seen such adoption? That's unheard of. That's for you to know that something fundamentally is wrong and the system should be queried immediately.
All right, Colonel Alfred, let me ask you a moderate question. If the Take It Back movement were invited by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria today or tomorrow, what would be the 3 reforms that you would demand the President to make right now?
Number 1 is to end insecurity. There has to be peace in the land, economy, and lastly, he should step down.
You want the president to step down?
Immediately. What will you do with a failure? I know you want me to define that.
Yes, you have to define that.
Now, there is this saying in life. Yes, there is this saying in life that says you give what you have. You don't give what you don't have. You can't come to me to ask me to give you 1,000 naira when I don't have it. I can't give it to you. Now, if in 3 years in office, Nigeria has become more worse, in fact, terrible, if there is any other adjective that can be used more than terrible or worse, please, someone should borrow me. Maybe I'll pay you after this session. But that is what this administration has become. And you're telling us what you need is a more time. If we are giving you 3 years of our lives and you have not achieved anything with it, other than insecurity, hunger, kidnaps, and the likes. So what more time do you need to give to us? Or your son that is not working, that has $10.8 billion house, that just bought $10.8 billion in the UK. Is that what you want to talk about? That we should give you time to re-strategize, because he is a master strategy. So you should re-strategize on how you will see more bloods on the streets. No. It's no longer about us. It's not about the people.
Are you accusing the administration of masterminding the insecurity going on in our
If
country?
anyone does not want to say the administration is involved, the question then everyone should ask themselves is, why then is it more worrisome and worse? Yes, we know there has been insecurity before this current administration, but why did it become too worse and more worse now in this administration? That this administration have not provided any Nigerians anything that you can hold.
Are you saying that this administration is involved in the insecurity that we are facing now?
If it's not involved, then let this administration do me one favor: end the insecurity in 3 days.
All right. I think that's our cue to wrap it up.
All right.
Thank you so much. Some fun.
All right. Thank you so much, Alfred, some fun for being here with us on the conversation this morning. Of course, we've been talking about the impact of activism here in our country, Nigeria. And yes, some fun has made a lot of requests and demands asking the president to step down or resign in 3 days if he doesn't solve insecurity as it is. But of course, those are his words and those are his thoughts, basically. But of course, back to myself and Martha in the studio.
Well, sadly, we didn't have Soweto for a long time. I wanted to ask you, because he made mention of something along the lines of, it's possible, it's not everyone who's on the streets that is a protester, that's an activist. Some people just join. But I wanted to ask him, how do you join something that you are not aware of?
Right.
Is that not how hijack happens?
No.
And then we have conversations about, people have hijacked the protest. People need to be properly educated on the reason that they're marching out to the streets. And if you don't educate them on the reason they are marching out to the streets, they will mismanage whatever happens there.
Yeah.
And you cannot hold the government accountable for taking action against people who did not properly understand what it means to protest and where their right stops when it comes to protest. I would have loved to ask that question, but we're wrapping it up here. Like you said, he made demands, and we're hoping that the security situation, is completely brought to an end by the president and this administration, basically.
All right. That being said, this is what we're going to take on this edition of the Rapid On. Do remember that you can follow us on our social media pages across our platforms at Rapid TV, and you can get to rewatch all our episodes on YouTube at Official Rapid TV. And wherever you are in the world, you can watch us live using our website, www.arabianradiotv.com. My name is Victor. Okay.
My name is Martha Alu. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.